Hi friends, Dr. Rob here. Welcome to LeaderTribe. Hey, this week something really special for you. I want to tell you about an awesome consulting assignment that I had. It was with an organization in Atlanta, organization of about 200 employees, a little more than that. Fantastic organization for over a quarter of a century, and they're still doing well, but their senior leadership really had a vision saying, what are we going to do in the future? We've done well in the past, but where's this thing going to go? So they brought me in to help them work on a project, and I started asking some questions. I said, basically, we've got a great organization now. In the future, for success, do you want to see the same type of organization, just scale it larger and have more successes that way? Or do you really believe you're going to have to kind of change the direction of some of this? Well, senior leadership, 100% in agreement. No. With the changing times, we need to change some of our direction. I said, okay, well then you're going to have some organizational alignment issues. I said, what types of new employees or what types of new direction are you going to get and get some of your current employees to change to go with you or change out some of your employees? They're saying, well, I really think we'll just kind of have the same team. And I said, that will never work. Your organization is 100% perfectly aligned to get the results you're getting right now. And if you say, we're going to basically keep the same alignment but get different results in the future, it's not going to happen. It's never happened. It never will happen. And they said, well, what should we do? And I said, well, basically, you got to figure out your top leaders in the organization. You figure out what level that is, but sort of your top echelon of leadership, are they the ones who are going to have the organizational flexibility and the vision and the commitment to change some of the things that they're doing and require those underneath them to change? Do they have that kind of capacity and the courage to do that? And I said, well, how would you know? I said, well, I would interview them. And so they brought me in and I interviewed about their top 30, 35 people in the organization. And what I did is I set up a survey of 6 questions. I sent it out ahead of time. Well, I didn't really send it out ahead of time. I only sent out the first 3 questions. And I said, hey, I look forward to having a great conversation with you. Here are 3 of the questions that I'm going to ask you. We'll talk about some other things in the interview. And it's only going to be a half-hour interview. Look forward to it. And I started at the top, and I interviewed their top 35 people. Well, the first 3 questions I gave them in advance. And again, what I wanted to do is I wanted to, in those things, talk about some big picture thinking and their personal passions and begin to look at results orientation, some of the things that they were going to think about and being dialed in on the organizational level. But I reserved 3 questions for them. I didn't tell them ahead of time because I really wanted their gut reaction, their visceral reaction. It was one of those questions that was really the telltale sign of whether or not we had the right kind of leader. Hey, let me share that with you. Basically, what I did is every one of these employees I rated on a 1 to 10, as I was asked to by the senior leadership. And I said, look, I've been doing this for 30 years. I might miss by 1. I hope not. But if I tell you this guy's a 9, then he's going to be a 9. He might be an 8, but I think he's a 9. Trust me, I'm not going to say he's a 9 if he's a 6. And so as I went through these and I started to give them the results, they were looking at this and they say, yeah, that's right. And some of the people who rated kind of low, I said, is this person really one of your leaders? Do you really want to stay with that? And I would start to hear things like, yeah, we've had some issues on that one for a while, but we've really never done anything about it. And I'm like, do something about it. Come on, this person's hurting you. There were 2 or 3, though, that were just latent superstars. They were in there, they were faithful, they were doing their work, but they were unbelievable. People that I would have hired in a nanosecond because they were just that sharp. And so it was ended up to be a really good project. But again, very first question I asked these leaders, I said, in your area of responsibility, what are the 1 or 2 things that absolutely have to happen well, or all the other things you're doing, they really aren't worth it? Let me give you an example. You know, if you've got a specific area of responsibility to your customers in customer service, and you've got great brochures, and you have wonderful team meetings, and you've got a good strategy, and you've got your vision all laid out, are your customers happy? Because if your customers aren't happy, all that other stuff really doesn't matter. And so often as leaders, what happens is those one or two big things in our lives, they're a little bit harder to measure and they're more difficult. So we want to default to the easier things to show, look, I'm successful here, here, here. I'm successful here, I'm a success. Yeah, what about this big area? Well, that's a little harder. That's the only one that really matters. And so what are the one or two areas that really matter or everything else doesn't matter? And as each of the leaders would identify that in their own lives, in their own areas of responsibility, my follow-up question about results orientation was this. Are you now, or would you like to in the future, measure the results in that specific area? Well, some people said, you know what, I don't really think you can well, you can measure the results in those areas. Trust me, there's not an area, even if it's a qualitative or a quantitative measure, you can come up with ways to measure results in those. But others were going like, yes, I would love to learn to, and others were saying, no, I already do, and here's how I do that. And so it was really good to begin to say that. My third question that I asked them, and again, all three of these questions these were the ones that they had up front, were it really had to do more with personal passion. It was, what is your personal greatest hope for your area? I mean, if you could come in 6 months from now, it's like all of my hopes and dreams have been met in this area of my responsibility, what would that be? And so what we did is we were able to begin to take their hopes and dreams and put it on paper and then see how far away from are we living from that right now. But then came the three questions that I didn't give them in advance. I'm only going to talk about one of those now, although I think all three of them were great questions. One of them had to do with organizational vision. One had to do, the one that was the most telltale sign of any question had to do with leadership initiative. This one question, depending on how they answered it, what I discovered right away is the 9s and 10s answered this one question far differently than the 5s and 6s and 7s. Every single time. And here was that magic question. Is there any area of your responsibility that you believe you need to be more empowered or to receive more clarity? That question was the showstopper. That was like the continental divide. Raindrop falls on this side of the continental divide, it goes all the way to the Pacific Ocean. Falls on this side, it goes that was the continental divide between the awesome leaders and those who were leaders but were a little unsure of themselves or weren't doing as good a job as they could have been doing. When I asked the very best leaders, is there any area in your responsibility that you need to be more empowered or receive more clarity, they said, no, I can't really think of any. When I asked the 5s and 6s and 7s, hey, is there somewhere where you need to be more? They go like, yes, in this area I've got responsibility, but I don't have authority. I'm not sure what they want me to do. They don't tell me these things. And so sometimes I get the information from one person, but sometimes I just have to find out from others because my boss doesn't really, wow. That one question was the dividing line every single time. The very best leaders, when they were asked, hey, is there some area of your life or your responsibility that you need to be more empowered or receive more clarity? The ones who would go, no. Why? Because they had taken the initiative to go find out what they needed to find out. They had gone to their boss and said, hey, I'd really like to do this. Can I do it? Do I have your permission? Do I have your authority to do it? Or they'd say, I'm not really sure about this. Can you give me some clarity on this? And sometimes their boss would say something like, hey, whatever you want to do it. Or other times they'd say, no, it's really important to me that here's the results. They had the clarity that they needed. The best employees, the ones that were 9 or 10, every single time they had taken the initiative rather than sitting back and saying, well, nobody really told me. My boss didn't communicate that to me. Friends, if you want to be a better employee, decide today, this week, I'm going to take some initiative. Is there any area that I feel like I would like to be more empowered or that I would like to have more clarity? Take the initiative and go after it. Your bosses will love you for it. As a matter of fact, those people who were 9s and 10s, when I presented all this information to the C-suite level people, they all looked at it and go, yeah, these are our best employees. Their bosses already loved them because these were the go-getters. They were the ones who would take the initiative to find out what they needed to do, and then they would do it well. So hey, I've got a great surprise for you this week. I want you to have the freebie, and it is the 6 critical questions for leadership success. 6 critical questions for leadership success. And these are really within the organizational context. They're exactly the questions that I asked these guys. The 3 that I sent them ahead of time, and then the 3 that I didn't ask until the interview when I really wanted that sort of visceral gut reaction. I hope those are going to be great too. If I were you, I would take them, use them on myself, rate myself in those areas. You could use them with your colleagues. I could use them with my family. You might just have to change up the words a little bit, but my goodness, they're really kind of the fog cutter questions that you want to be asking. That's a free download. Download those 6 free leadership success fog cutter questions. I like that. I think that they'll be super helpful to you. It's a free download. Go ahead and click and download that. Hey, this is Dr. Rob at LeaderTribe. Great being with you. I look forward to seeing you again soon.